Okay, it's 6:30, so we'll begin the meeting here. Glad to have everyone with us tonight. My name's Justin Woosley. Sharon is out of town tonight, so I'm filling in for her. We have a few announcements to make before we begin. If you would please silence your cell phones. And then as far as our events coming up, Thursday, February 26th at 6 at First Baptist on the corner of Collins and Francis is the dedication of the Footprints Historical Interpretive Markers. Janet, what's your next genealogical?
We are meeting this Saturday and at the Maria Public Library, and we are going to learn about the history of Baptists from Reverend Sam Miller from Madison County and the Baptist minister. He's going to start in Europe and bring us through the traveling church.
Also, if anyone has any stories, photos, etc., to share in the Heritage Highlights, if you could get those to Teresa, Tom, or Sharon, and get those published. An announcement: we were successful in applying for an America 250 grant and are currently researching the 67 patriots on the Revolutionary War Memorial. A book will be published with the information. If anyone has any information on these individuals, it would certainly be appreciated. Or if anyone's interested in helping the committee to research, that would also be appreciated. We have some new books over here with Francis. Bill Williams, member of the Historical Society. It's Commanders of the Battle of Richmond book is there. Judy Baker Green has the Maple Grove Cemetery biographies. And then Dr. James Coy has put together a scrapbook of Kirksville memorabilia there. This time I'll announce our speaker, Mr. John Lovell, is a native of Madison County. After graduation from Madison High School, he attended Eastern Kentucky University, earning a BA and MA in history. John was a classroom teacher in Richmond City Schools and Madison County Schools for 27 years. He coached middle school boys basketball at Madison and assisted with the girls basketball team at Madison Southern for 14 years. After retirement, he has devoted some of his time to historical research of Madison County and genealogy. John is the founder of the Facebook pages Memories of Berea and Memories of Richmond. He grew up in Richmond and now lives in Berea with his wife Donna, and they have 3 children.
Thank you. Sharon got in touch with me and these days. Did you do a presentation on that? No, I won't say those. Because, but being a Sharon. So this is, I want to make it, try to make sense here. This is about concise history. What would we do? This is a sharing of events that led to certain things that happened during the course of the 40 years from 1921 to 1961, and the 22 years that uniquely 2 high schools came together and formed a partnership in academics and athletics, and that was Madison. And I'll be covering that, of course, too. Let me start with this. I entered Madison Elementary School in September of 1964, and I left the building in June of 1976. I was there for 12 years. All 6 groups, my elementary, I was just telling the dean. I know every classroom, every teacher, go up there and say, well, that's where Miss Fulton was, Sebastian was. This high school, my high school, and of course we all know what the situation is all now. I don't know what's going to happen, but they better not try to tear that down. They better not try to tear that down. I may have to do some of this now. But anyway, I'll always be very proud of Madison. I hate the fact that, we're the 7th or 8th largest city in the state of Kentucky, and we don't have a city. And that's crazy. But I'm not here to discuss that, you know, it happened and what I do about that. But as I said, this is not an exact history. It's not comprehensive and I fear it's not good enough to do much justice to all that happened on the Hill over those 40 years. But it is what it is. Madison Female Institute, obviously we're familiar with the Hill where Madison High is now, that's where the Female Institute was. Began in 1858, I believe. And was, in existence until 1914. This is a student from the 1908 term, and it just happened to be my grandmother, who lived in Grand Orchard. And she, Madison Female Institute was a finishing school. So I had to include that picture. This is a gorgeous picture of the Female Institute, courtesy of artificial intelligence. It's amazing what they can do with these pictures. Amazing. I've seen that picture and that's the way it looks, but the details. So I don't know exactly how the school faced, but that's where Madison High is now. Okay. Yeah, incorporated in 58. It was just a large brick residence located on a hilltop south of downtown. Actually, it was used as a hospital after the Battle of Richmond for a short period of time. It was leased to City Board of Education for 99 years. And that was 1914. So I guess, I don't know. How come it's, I don't know who owned it. I had no idea, I don't know what the information was.
John, is that Crab Street one south there in the middle?
What's that?
That Crab Street, the present.
This is University Drive. That is, that's the University Building, that's Memorial Hall.
Right.
And,
The road going up there, there's Second Street,
huh?
that's Second Street. Going
Yeah,
up,
well, yeah,
and that's Crab Street. that's
You know,
across the way.
Second Street runs into University Drive, right there at the bottom past the. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah. All right, next. Caldwell High, I'm gonna spend too much time on this, but, 1895, they built beautiful school. Go ahead and go to the next. That's a postcard of the school. It operated from 1895, Richmond's first, public high school, really. And it was by 1921, it was too small. So they had the elementary in there, maybe the high school and then, or maybe the junior high and then the high school kids were going to, the females. They were using that building.
John, can you go back to those five?
Sure.
Is that the same building?
Say this.
My question about that is, Mrs. Terrell, who lived on Second Street, in a little house right there, that I used to own.
You know what?
She went to a girls' school that was,
Well, I'll tell you, a lady that lived in either this house or the one next to it was my high school librarian. Her name was Sarah Barker. You remember Sarah Barker?
that was the other house.
Yes. They're both, look sort of the same. Well, I remember she lived over there, but anyway.
Well, before it was a high school, yeah,
Yep,
it was a girls' school
No, that's nice
for
too.
little girls. And Mrs. Terrell went there and had all kinds of pictures of it. And it was before Garner.
Oh, well,
It
It was all girls?
It was a girls' school.
okay. Where were the boys going? Well, it was Madison Male Academy. So I stand corrected if that's true. All right. And that's what. It was an arson, they think. That was, March of 1921, early in the morning, the whole place was ablaze and they couldn't save it. And, unfortunately, it was, I think, worth it was valued at $100,000, and the insurance they had on it was $25,000. So, you know, they went under on that. That's what, was there afterward. Well, you might remember the armory. Of course, now it's a park. All right. This is old Richmond High. Built in 1896, expanded on about 1911. I took this picture about 2012, of course, before it was torn down. This was the front. I'll tell you more about the gymnasium over there later. Go ahead. This gentleman right here, is anybody familiar with Mr. Merrick? Mr. Merrick was my assistant principal in 1973. He was the principal at Richmond High. And he started in 45. Became principal in 45. When integration in the school system took place, he served as principal of Richmond Junior High until the school closed its doors in 1973, and then he became the assistant principal at Madison when I was my sophomore year. And Mr. Merritt was a heck of a man. Great fellow. And he drank black coffee. You could cut it. I never forget it. Next. Mr. Freeman, my coach. He was my junior high football coach. He was my freshman football coach. He was, as far as I'm concerned, a legend when it came to Richmond High School. Born in Bourbon County. He was the agriculture assistant football head basketball coach for Richmond High for several years before integration took place. Then, for the next 17 years, he was still at Old Richmond Junior. And came to Madison in 73 until he retired in 79. He was on our football staff when I was a freshman. My brother was the head coach. And it was always sort of weird. Mom Joe was, you know, he was the head coach, and then he had Mr. Freeman there. But he really appreciated Mr. Freeman. This right here is this was on the stage. Sharon Graves. Not here, where's Sharon?
She's listening online.
Anyway, he had me come over. And we tried to take down everything that wasn't, that could be taken out, because they're gonna tear it down. And we got that. And I've got a picture of me. That is that's still on the property. This is where it was when I took the picture in 2012. This was put up by friends of Richmond High School. And it tells you the history. This is the gymnasium. It was built by the WPA in 1938, 30, I think, maybe 39. And talk about showing how something can really change. Flip plane. Next slide. Almost the next year, Joseph G. Fletcher takes these gentlemen right here, and he wins the Kentucky High School Athletic League State Championship. They took a year off, and they won it again in 1942. And this is, of course, Coach Fletcher, who was also a principal at that time. This is right before Mr. Merritt came. Next one. So they went the next year. I mean, this is what, you know, this gymnasium did for me. You might be wondering, why are these guys got purple jerseys on, these guys got brown? And that's my fault, because I started colorizing them in purple. A guy that did this, it's Bill Price. I haven't met him, but he's done a lot of AI pictures and stuff. And that's the color he had, he didn't know it. So that's 3 state championships in 4 years.
So they have purple uniforms.
No, they were blue, royal blue.
Blue.
So I got some work to do on it. It looks purple.
Can I ask you, was that school built as a black school?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 1896. This is the football team. There's Mr. Freeman. And this is Teddy there in front of the gym. I wish I could tell you these guys' names well. Mr. Freeman. Next. Football team in 1950. Mr. Merritt, and this fellow right here is funny. I went to watch Eastern play a football game in 1979 in the playoffs. Gotta have some water. And stood next to this fellow, immaculately dressed, African American fellow. Talked to him the whole game. Really interesting. And finally, when the game was about over, you know, I introduced myself to him, I hadn't thought about it. He said, I'm Abraham Bradshaw. And at the time, it meant nothing to me. And then I started doing this research. And he went on to coach, he got, at one time was coaching in Lovell at Lovell Central, so he was very successful when he did. All right, next one. 1950, they were in 3rd place in the state, Mr. Freeman coaching. Anybody familiar with Irvin Shanks? Irvin Shanks was the first African American to play in a college basketball game in the state of Kentucky against white competition, integrated game. He was about 6'5". He looks like he's 7 foot. Trip to Washington, D.C. 1953, they were able to go to Washington, and interestingly, 5 years later, Madison took its first integrating group of singers to Washington, D.C. So this was that time in American history. Here are the cheerleaders in 1952. Next, 52 team. The 53-54 team, and Coach Bradshaw still there, Coach Freeman still there. This gentleman was a freshman, and 3 years later, as a senior, would break the color barrier at Madison. That's Kennard Bottom. Anybody familiar with Kennard? Still lives here. I'll tell you a little about him. That's Richmond High class of 42. This presentation was just done recently. Velma Miller is a teammate of mine. He was a coaching mate of mine. And he has really taken the reins in trying to honor Richmond High School. And they got this, I'll never forget, when I was a sophomore in high school, we walked in the auditorium first day of school, and this trophy case was in there. And I'm like, where did that come from? It had all these old trophies in it. And that was Richmond High. And I thought we lost them, and they managed to get most of that back. I wish I could say the same thing about passing High trophy. All right, next. This is just an article that Robert Rice did. I've got these 2 yearbooks. Richmond High School, that I'm gonna give Melville the next time I see him. I thought I'd lost these, but these are treasures. And, it's the 1952 and the 1953. Okay. All right. This is the way this article starts. Madison County High School opens for the year of 1921-22. Why would they call it Madison County High School? Well, it really was. Because if you lived out in the county and you wanted to go to high school, obviously your options in 1921 were too good. So you probably tried to come into town. I had a first to come. A.L. Lasker was hired. He was the president of Norfolk, Virginia. He was hired to be principal. And this man gave the next 36 years of his life to this school system. Now I'll be talking more about him later. Mention of a couple of teachers that were added. Note this name right here, Professor B.F. Gabby, who was a professor, a teacher at Madison. And a very unfortunate incident takes place in about 6 years. High school's just been built, just opened. Just 2 levels, as you can see, just, well, actually, if you count below, it's 3 of them, of course. Another level was built later on.
John, did they tear down completely the female institute to build it? They completely,
But the foundation, the base
yes.
is still at Madison. That's where we had recess. We had recess in the foundation of Madison Female Institute. Still there,
So the base,
the base.
the basement is.
There was a receded floor, and it was the basement of that place. Because if you can tell, it wasn't anything that they really built on purpose. And we used it for a regular in the winter time. This lady right here, I had to honor because, she started teaching at Caldwell and taught 51 years. And Miss Mabel, when I was born in 1958, Miss Mabel was my next door neighbor. She lived right next door to me with her sister Kathleen Briggs. She never got married. She was a spinster, but she wrote the alma mater. And she also wrote a book about Abraham Lincoln that she worked on forever. And she got it published the year that I graduated high school in 76. I'm gonna forget it. I got a copy of it. Some of you might have it as well. Okay. A.L. Lasker. Lasker was hired to become the principal as well as the football basketball coach. Madison didn't have a physical structure when he came, so for 2 years they held classes wherever they could, churches, government, whatever. He served as principal until 1941 when he became superintendent. And in 1954, of course, Brown versus Board of Education decision was made, and he was quick to go ahead and integrate Madison High, which not all schools were. For example, Bay High School in Danville was around until 1964. They didn't integrate Danville until 64. Lexington, Dunbar High School was open until 1965. So, Mr. Lasker was a little bit ahead of that. And he might have paid for it. First graduating class, 1022. Beautiful picture. Now, for some reason, I've got a few pictures. I don't know where this room is, but they're like pictures of Eastern groups and whatnot in this room. I have no idea where it is, but it was the official photography. It was all pictures. You'll see what I'm talking about. There it is again. 1923, this is the second class. I wish I could tell you that, but I can't. 24, first in the new building. The new building opened in September of 23, and then they had the dedication about the time, right at the end of 1924. And the largest class in the history of the school at that point, 40 people in 1925. Okay. There's that same picture. Student body. And I'm going to, I'm going to give this to the Historical Society. I hand it. That picture right there, don't ask me how I got it, and I got it, and I don't need it. That's the entire student body. Excellent. Here's the Board of Education. I wish I could tell you about these people, but I don't know. But this guy right here, his name was D.B. McKinney. And I had heard of him. I'll tell you why later. Wait. First football team in the history of Madison High School, 1921. Lasker had been a football coach at Danville Military Institute in Danville, Virginia. I didn't say, but he was a graduate of William and Mary. He was a very accomplished student. And he started the program. The first year is a little rough. They went 2-6. Then they went 2-6 again. But you might recognize, well, I don't know if you recognize, but this fellow right here, name is Johnny Allen. And he had a restaurant down the river. And his cousin made something called beer cheese, and Johnny liked it, and he started serving it at his restaurant. It worked out very well. Right here is his brother, James Mule Almond, who ended up, I think he lived in Korea. He was a big fellow. He was there in Johnny and Johnny. And another person that I might mention here now, when I Stone was ended up becoming the superintendent in Carrollton. This gentleman right here, his name is Anderson, James Anderson. What do you think, Dean, when you hear James Anderson? That's right, James Anderson and son. And his son graduated in 1950. I'll show you his picture. Wait. Definitely. Wish I could spend more time on it. There's that room again. First basketball team. Mr. Lasker was a better football coach than he was basketball. They never really did a whole lot in the, he coached about 17 years. They weren't horrible. Really didn't win much. Next one. I'll try to make this as quick as I can, but in some of you might be familiar with a guy named Shelton Salt. Shelton Saltley started the Richmond Register in 1917. He had a son named Shelton Jr. And Shelton Jr. wanted to play football. He wanted Shelton to play football, and he got a program, the Dodge dealership, which was next to the old federal building. They sponsored him, and they called them the Dodge Brothers. And these young kids had a football team, and they learned how to play football. And by the time they got to be older, they were pretty good. 2 teams before the 25 team went like 13-2. They were good. But in 1925, everybody knew Madison was going to be the best team in Central Kentucky. No doubt about it. And they were going to make sure of it because they're going to send A.L. Lassiter to Newt Rockney's coaching student. And they did. And he learned that box formation at Newt Rockney. Next. In 1925, we got our nickname, Royal Purple. If you ever wondered where that came from. S. Burnell Dutch Clark, class 23. He was on that first team. They had a competition. You put in your entry and he won. They won $5. And from that point on, we were the Madison Royal Purples. All right. Here's part of that team I'm telling you about. And the best, as far as I'm concerned, probably the best player on the team is on this picture. Which he didn't know. This is Sheldon Softly Jr., who he later became publisher and everything. Register after his dad passed. And he was a sharp character, I'll tell you that. Kenneth Canfield ended up becoming principal of Madison after 17 years. Remember the name Kenneth Canfield at all? Yeah. I know you've heard of him, dealership. His dad had a dealership on
Canfield Motors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I bet you know who this would be.
Jack Young.
Hmm?
Jack Young.
No, not Jack. Jack's old, but he ain't that. This is a fellow named Hugh Tez Young. They called him Speck. That's Speck. And he started a establishment that later became the family dog, which I hear is maybe gonna come back. Anyway, Speck Young was like a legend. I'd heard Speck Young all the time. What Adams. I don't know much about him. Mr. Wells, I remember way on him. 1970s, he had a little hardware store called Wells Hardware, close to the Western Alta. You remember Wells Hardware?
Son named Terry.
And that man, he was always dressed immaculate. Shirt and tie, he wore bow tie. He's a really nice fellow. This guy was Big Bill Terrell. They had two William Terrells. One was Little Bill, one was Big Bill. That's Big Bill. All right, let's go on with it. And this is the team. I will read you this as quick as I can. Find the right one here. December 21, Lasker was hired as principal and athletics coach, as I told you. This team went 8-2. They didn't go undefeated. Their first mistake was they went to play Louisville Mayo first game of the year. Louisville Mayo was like a team that couldn't even get a game in Kentucky because they were like today. So they decided they were good enough to go to Louisville big league. And they got beat, but they battled. Then they won 8 straight games. They won the best team in Central Kentucky, and then Pineville High School challenged them to a playoff game in December. They were the champions of Southeastern Kentucky, and Pineville upset them 9-6. So that was the best team Madison had had. Okay. This was done, I guess, at the end of the year in recognition of the accomplishment. And I saw online where this was being auctioned off. And I thought, well, where the heck did I want that? And it was being auctioned off because Betty Young, Jack Young's wife, had passed. And his children didn't even know he was involved in this. So I said, I gotta get that thing. And I'm giving it to the Historical Society.
Oh,
That's it.
Wow.
And this thing, I think it had a little water damage. Anyway, Jack Young had, nobody loved Jack Young more than that, or loved Madison High more than Jack Young. Yeah.
So John, you remember Elizabeth Bundy? Elizabeth Bundy,
Oh, how old is he?
they passed. Elizabeth Bundy?
Well, I remember, no, I think who I remember, he had a son named Alan.
Yes.
Alan played little league football with my brother. So I know Bundy family.
This is Elizabeth's grandmother, Adams. And I know his first name, they were big members of Lovell Church.
And you had heard about him.
Oh, yeah, there's a picture of him at church.
John Harold Motley on there also.
That's the one I was gonna tell you, he's probably the best player in the team now. I don't know if you missed picture day that one day, but Harold Marble, senior. Was great, like, I got to interview him for 2 hours. When I was a senior, when I was in grad school at Eastern and working in the oral history department with Dr. Burge. And, he wanted me to maybe start a little project, and I tried to do a national football thing, and I didn't get real far with it. It was maybe 1 year. Harold Marley, senior, was quite the, one time the ABC commissioner here was speaking to me. Is he ever shared?
Yeah.
Sure, okay. This 1926 class, man, I got a picture of it. I don't know how he got it from Timmy Dale Williams. We all know you. From a young age, you know, you hear about rumor, you hear about things, you know, something that happened, you know, there's some kind of ghost up on the third floor, and there was somebody down here and whatnot, and a boy got killed at football, at a Madison football game. And, you know, I didn't find out it was true until I did this research. This was a national news story. I mean, you talk about freakish. B.F. Gabby, the guy, the professor I told you about, well-respected teacher, he was keeping the time. And back then, they shoot off the gun at the end of the quarter. He takes the gun up at the end of the quarter, and it doesn't go off. So in the process of trying to do it again, he had turned it sideways. And the bleachers in the stands didn't go very high at all. And it's, Charles Bender, it went right in his eye. So he didn't die right away, but it was just a matter of time. It was just horrible, absolutely horrible. And, you know, it's not a pleasant story, but it obviously was very effective. They had to call the game off, of course, and that 27 season wasn't a good year. Next one. Now, I'm jumping way ahead of the industrial arts here, but I wanted to show this off because this work is so good, and I've got another picture of works that were done when they were working in the building. Next one. But in 1939, when they built that gym for Richmond High, they had that money, I think, from what they used to build the shop, they also used money to build that gym. So both of those were built at the same time, you know, industrial arts building, it's still good today. And Kenneth Canfield was one of the teachers, Harvey came, and it was just really nice at the time. And then the upstairs, I guess, was used for band room. That's the building. That's still there on campus, built in 1939. Okay. Okay, we added the floor. They didn't put the wings on until 1954, I think. So at this time, and Dina will remember this, the only way you could get to the third floor is through the library. You remember that?
Yeah.
You had to go through that little winding thing. The fire marshal would have said, "No, you're not gonna do that." But back then, you know, it wasn't the fire truck. But this school is it's just beautiful. The auditorium came out the back, 883 capacity in 1927. Pretty impressive. Gymnasium was built in the back. It sat about 800 people. Over time, it was a great gym. This was a great building. Still is. All right. This, I'll read you some info. And some of these people I did. No. Madison model, I shouldn't say Madison model. This was not Madison model. This was the year before model came in with it. So these guys were the model for Madison students. But anyway, they were coached by this fellow right here, Ralph Carlisle. Ralph Carlisle had played basketball for this fellow in Lexington named Adolph Crook. And in 1937, he graduated he was all SEC. He had played basketball at Kavanaugh before that, his great basketball high school in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. And they hired Mr. Lasher, quit basketball, and he hired Ralph Carlisle. Paid off pretty quick. Paid off pretty quick. This was his second team. Carlisle was just 22 when he took the job. He's 23 here. This is taken in the Weaver Health Building after the game in which they won the 11th Region Championship. I was telling Dean this, at that time, the 44th District included 10 teams. Madison, Union City, Berea Foundation, Whitehall, Newby, Bobtown, Waco, Irving, Kirksville, Red. Just in Madison County. Bobtown did a really good thing. They won 17 games in a row going into the tournament. And Madison was able to beat them by 8 to win the tournament. Then they go to the region. And in the region tournament, they beat Wilmore, beat Oxford. Then they had to play Henry Clay. And Henry Clay, they weren't expected to beat him. But they ended up winning the game 25-24. At the end of the game, there was a question as to whether or not Bobby Jennings, and you know Bobby Jennings, whether Bobby Jennings had fouled this guy from Henry Clay. So they went to the scores table. They just tried to figure out, did it happen before or after for 25 minutes? They sat there and debated. And they decided that him. That's easy. So we get to go to the state tournament next one. And this is Bobby Jennings, supposed to go back to that when I wanted to point out, I'm sorry, I missed it. This is Mr. Lassiter. Anybody remember Buster Maggard?
Yep.
It's Conrad Parrish. Eugene Williams. Bobby Jennings. Can't remember his name. That's Dougie Wilcox. This gal right here is Mr. Lassiter's daughter. I'm going to tell you a lot about her. This is, that's Dr. O'Donnell, who was superintendent of schools before he became president of Eastern. And, that's his son, Jimmy. All right. And that's Bobby with the, trophy. Guess what, Francis, you're gonna get it on that.
Christmas.
This right here has been through the 10 flood. It's not completely dead. And I'm getting up to all. And I know, Bobby's son would love to see it. The judge would like to see it. Okay. I'm not gonna get into all this, but Coach Carlisle left Madison after 4 years, where she had. He was 64-32, he won the region just the one time, but he decided to get out of coaching and did something else for maybe a year or two, then he becomes the head coach at Lafayette. And, before it's all said and done, he's in the Hall of Fame. Because he was the head coach. So we were lucky to have him for 4 years next year. This is the first Madison model football team. And a lot of the people that I've already mentioned there, Bobby Jennings is back there, Jimmy O'Donnell, there's Eugene Williams, Peanuts Parrish is over there, that's Claire May's dad. Some of you might remember a guy named Wallace Mack, mayor of the city of Richmond in the 70s. There's I can't. And that was a good team. They, over about 2 years, that was Coach Lasher was still coaching football. They won about say 17 games, most maybe 3.
John, I think them houses back behind that last picture or some, it's some street. No, or Madison Avenue or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's,
Madison Avenue.
yeah, that's Madison Avenue. This is right there.
Both of those houses are still standing.
Yeah.
And the one on the right, my grandfather's family.
They're still right
Still
there.
standing.
Still right there. Okay. Buster Maggard, first team All-Stater in the history of Madison High. He played in, he well, all that stuff's gone now, but his parents lived out there at the turn in Big Hill Avenue. And, they had tourist cabins, Maggard tourist cabins, remember those? The Maggard Hotel, Buster ran it was down there where that auto parts place is now, and then the twins was there too. But anyway, Buster was a heck of an athlete. He played for Eastern, and I wanted to recognize him. He was the first team All-Star. All right. First picture I have of the cheerleaders. This is Nancy Lassiter. The other girls I'm not familiar with. Yeah, Elizabeth Salmon, Lance Taylor, Virginia Hackett, Mary Harris. Okay. Anybody remember? The Rigby? He was there a long time. He was there when my sister was there. He was there when Tom Black was there. In the early 60s. He was still there in the early 60s. I guess this is the first junior high band of mine, Madison Middle. Next one. This is the orchestra. See, this is the thing about the Madison model deal. Opportunities that model kids would not have had, because it obviously, lab school for Eastern, they had the university go. Okay, that's what they had. So by model coming in, they were able to take advantage of things, and it helped. And well, for example, the last year it was open, my brother was a freshman at Madison, and he took Latin in the university of. So they had that place this year. Go ahead. This is a picture of the faculty, and I don't know anybody in it, but I guarantee I know the national song. There's Mr. Laster up there, and there's this lady up at the top named Nancy Evans. Sorry. Go ahead and go to the next. I need that water. Next one, please.
I guess we're gonna find out.
Hey, a week ago, I never heard, I did not, I'd heard this name, I did not know this one. She was in Madison from the opening. And, when she passed, I found her obituary, and she was the, well known for her leadership in settlement house social work, and she actually coached girls basketball in the 20s when they it says right here. I think she beat Dan. You know what she's doing. That picture was saved by Jesse Moore. When Madison closed, consolidated with the county. He salvaged many pictures. And he's the only one who would have done it. Because I guarantee you, those other guys are ready to let you go. And this is one of the pictures he saved. But this is so ironic. And I didn't look at this till tonight, but I brought this book. And I want to give it to the historical society. This is a bulletin and course of studies at Richmond City Schools in 1926. And what blew my mind when we got over here, and I looked down and I said,
What's your line?
everybody see? I mentioned that, I should have. Okay. Mr. Lasker's named superintendent. 1941, because Dr. O'Donnell gets named president of Eastern. And he was immediately hired because he had done such a great job for 20 years. He had been a 3-term president of Kentucky High School Coaches Association. He was a real leader. I had to throw this picture in there because, see there, Dr. O'Donnell, Mr. Lasker, some of you remember Jonathan Truman Norris. And the best guy is this guy right here, that's my granddad, who died the year before I was born. The best part of this picture is, that's my mom and that's my dad. That's the administrative board of the First United Methodist Church in 1952. So I just threw that in. Jesse Marlowe, he was a player on the football team in 2 years leading up to 25, he was one of the main players. And he went on to Eastern. Some of you might be familiar with his dad, Earl Lumley, who was county judge for a number of years, had at least 4 sons, I think. And Jesse's nephew, Jimmy, the All-State football player at Madison in '64, graduated from England. Okay. This was the 41 team, and really, Jesse only coached 2 years. And then he got involved in the war, but this was a heck of a team. Some of you remember Wilson Bond. This fellow right here, I'll talk more about later. His name was Doc Fair. W.T. Doc Fair, or D.T. Ben Turman worked at the restaurant. All these are people that I can remember. My dad played dogs with. This fellow right here, Glenmore Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know you heard of Glenmore because he only died about 3 years ago. He was 99. That was a really good team. It was 6-2. Wanted to talk briefly about this guy right here. We're putting him in the Hall of Fame here in about 3 months. His name is Gold Ritter. You ever heard of Gold Ritter? Gold was raised, he was born, when he was born, they lived on Big Hill Avenue, but he was raised on Motley. And he was a heck of an athlete. Great football. He signed scholarship with Eastern. Before he could go, though, you know, this is 1941, he went in the service. He won 2 Bronze Stars in there. And he came back and he went to Eastern, and he was a great basketball player for Eastern. And then he played for the New York Knickerbockers 3 years. He became a high school basketball coach and Hazard won the state title in 1955. Mainly because of John.
He had a son named Frank.
Did he?
I think so.
Yeah. The Johnny Cox. Yeah. Anyway, Gold was going in and he deserved, really deserved. This is a picture of Jesse saved. Nancy the last there again. Trying to think of his name. I remember Whitfield Handy was a big old tackle on the football team. That's one. This is the school play in 42. This gentleman right here lived 3 doors up the street from where I grew up. Of course, he was gone to live. His name. Oh, he just left my head. Just left my head. Help me out, Donnie.
I don't know.
Cheat sheet.
I don't think you have on that.
Huh?
You don't have a cheat sheet yet.
You'll remember, Don.
Oh, I'm sorry. Charles McCall.
Hall Sager. Played in the East West All Star game. That's why I wanted to point him out. There he is, Charles McCollum, Stafford Nelson. Nathan Lovell, these are three guys who were, singers about that time. And the reason I got these pictures, we'll see in the next slide. It's because this lady right here. Her name is Mary Elizabeth Stagman. And her daughter went to school with my brother for 12 years, dear friends. Her name is Libby Hendren Hassan. Libby Sue. And she said, John, I've got this scrapbook. My mom, she said, I mean, you want? I said, yeah. So it was falling apart, right now. I'm gonna give every bit of it, and you all. And maybe Jackie or me, I don't know, we sell a lot of these things. And great pictures, but that's her in high school, and here she is, she was a varsity cheerleader for 3 years, just like her daughter. In the 60s, beautiful lady. There's Nancy Lasser again, there's Mary Lynn in the middle, and I don't know Laura's last name, but that was the cheer squad in 42. This is one of the pictures she had, and that's Nancy right there, because I've already seen, that's a pose she used in cheerleading a lot. And I had no idea, what game or anything, anyway, she had that picture. There's another picture that she had. Not as great, and then the next picture. Mary Liv, Nancy Lasser. And this young lady right here was the mascot. I heard that name was Perry, that's why. And you'll notice that I have her picture right here. Because she passed 9 days. Just passed. Dorothy Parish, I'm sorry, Dorothy Parish Park with me.
Dorothy was. I've known her for a while, but I'm not from here, but, Lisa Church. She still do splits in her old age.
Her niece and she just loved her. Yeah. Mary Lynn took this picture, you can tell. He was at Madison, first year at Madison. His name was Bob Ackerman. And he proceeded over the 6 years that he was the basketball coach. He only state tournament 3 times. So they got somebody, they lost Carlisle, they got somebody pretty good. Some of the names, Harris Nolan, Jack Rogers, Milton Pearson, Theodore Dunn, Harold Mobley. This fella, I'm gonna tell you a lot more about Harold Mobley. Not Harold Mobley Senior, but Harold Mobley Junior. He might be the best athlete that ever played for France. He's a freshman here. Doc Farrell was a senior. Lonzo Nelson, who actually went to Kentucky for a year, was a senior on the team, and then that's Jack Rogers. And they went all the way to the Final Four. Lost to Dayton, who was youth. And that was the year that Wawa Jones. They beat Olive Hill and Osage. That's just a picture taken from the paper. The next year, they go again. I wish I had a picture of the team. I don't have it. I'll try to get one. But they went and they made it to the second round in 45. Okay. And this is Doc Farrell. His daddy, there was a place on Main Street right across from the courthouse called Doc's. And that was Dr. Taylor Farrell, who died in 19, and so this is horrible.
He died in 1943, right before that state tournament team got to play, so we never got to see his son, Doc, play at UK or North Madison. But this house right here, right across the street from me my whole life when I was a kid, they weren't living there then, obviously, but that was it. 432 Oak Street. Okay. Madison had pretty good baseball too. As in state runner-up 2 years in a row. I had no idea of this until, well, maybe I found out this 5-6 years ago. But once again, main reason for that, Harold Mobley Jr. He's a paper man. Found this today. 1946. Madison's third in the state in swimming. I didn't even know they had swimming. That was worth noting. 1947, Ackerman tasted the state tournament for the last time. Brewers won the tournament. We lost to Hazard in the second. Okay. This picture was taken from Lexington Herald. And that is Harold Mobley Jr. What was sweet about this game when we beat Lafayette was Ralph Garland was the coach. We got our old coach. There he is. Harold Mobley Jr. He was a three-sport standout. Madison Mobley had the most success in basketball. He helped lead the Royal Public to the state tournament 3 times in 44, 46, 47. He set a state tournament single game record when he scored 32 against Dawson Springs, later broken by Cliff Hagan. He was named the All-State Tournament team. He was voted with the Good Harold leader first team All-State games. He was selected to play in the Kentucky, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, and the Kentucky East-West All-Star game. And as I said, he also led the baseball team to 2 runner-up positions in the state. And he went on and played basketball at Eastern under 13th grade. I just put this up here to show you what the size of the class was in 1946. They graduated 60. And that's combined, of course. This is the 48 team. I got a picture of it. They didn't win anything. But I mean, they weren't bad. They just didn't do as well as the others. And some of you might remember Don Combs, Earl Combs' son. He was an athletic director at Eastern and won a lot of swimming championships. And was there. This is Buster Madden's brother. Morris Schwab, a dear friend of my parents. And like I said, this is Coach Ackerman's last season. Bucky Fox from Chicago. He played 4 years at Eastern under Ron Rankin, and they hired him to coach football. And when Harold Mobley Jr. was there, he did all right. As you can see, 14-5-2. We lost Harold Mobley Jr. So I don't know anything about football, but it wasn't really good. But that's it. This was his second team, I think. That's Harold Mobley up there next to him. That's of course taken out there behind the school. This was his last team, or Harold Mobley's last team. This is Coach Bacchus. This is Libby's, this is Mary Liv Stagner's brother. They called it Snake. I don't know what to make of it. This is the 1948 team, and I sort of want to focus on this gentleman. This was not a good team. I think they won 1 game. This fellow right here, of course, cheap things.
No cards.
Huh? No, I don't think, what did I do?
Are they over by the trophy?
Wanted to read this. Number 3 right there is Jack Young. Jack was a mail carrier in Richmond many years. 1948, he played quarterback. They ran a single wing, so he wasn't actually quarterback like we see today. And he wasn't. I've heard him tell some stories that would make you just fall out laughing. Not when he played. But when Roy Kidd was hired as head coach at Madison, Jack was his booster club president, his biggest fan. Of course, the Roy Kidd years were awesome at Madison High. And Jack just loved the school, and he loved sports, he loved football. And I wanted to recognize him. He kept the clock at Eastern, or kept the score time at Eastern games forever. He always wore his referee suit and he stood on the side. Next picture. And there he is. Jacqueline Truitt Jack Young. Known him since I went to school with his sons. He was a good fellow. This is the 1950 class of Jack. This fellow right here, Charles Hacker, you ever heard of him? They call him Hack. He's still around, man. He's still around. He graduated in that class. This is James Anderson's son, Raymond. And this was the gal that he married. And they had a daughter, and she's the one that got me these pictures. Go on with that. Jim Murphy. You know Jim, don't you? He was on that basketball team at 48. And that's Maxine. I had to get a tooth pulled when I was like 5 years old with Dr. Richmond, my dentist, and he wasn't there, and his office partner was, unfortunately for him, Mr. Murphy. And he got done with me, he told my mom, said, don't you ever bring this woman. I don't know, beat his hand, what I did. Here's the choir. Just a few people I'll point out here. This is Mary Jo McKay. He married Bobby Joe Whitaker. Some of you might know Bobby Joe. He was a good basketball player for Madison. Also Katie Schwinger, mother of my best friends. She was the senior that year, I think, too. All right. This was another not good football player. I went 2-6. I ran the and I think my wife's trying to yeah. This team wasn't good either, right next. No, I think I'll point this out. Frankie Ray. Frankie's still with us. And he was on that team. All right. This was the basketball team. Coach Buckets had already they decided, well, we'll try you in basketball. That lasted a year when he was gone. But actually he became a principal at one of the county grade schools. This fellow here, also from Eastern. This was his first year as an assistant. He took over as head coach the next year. Frankie is right there. Yeah. This fellow right here is named Jimmy Whitaker. He taught history at Madison Central forever. I never knew he went to Madison. He helped Don Richardson in baseball. I don't think it was something I ever helped. Yeah, he did. That's Frankie. Is Frankie still in? Yeah. We put him in the Hall of Fame last year. He wasn't even trying to teach. 1952. We take a positive turn. We hire The assistant coach at Eastern named J.D. Langley. He had played for the Detroit Lions, got into football, and he did a really good job. They didn't, they went 3, 2, and 3, actually had 3 ties. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that, look at all the players he got out. I mean, it was impressive. So we thought we were in great shape. Here's a picture of the team. There's Frankie. There's Frankie's senior year. We had a lot of young guys who would later become major players. Roy Kidd. They're all 8th graders. Unfortunately, Coach Langley decided to leave. We sure hate to see Langley leave. After saying he has done an excellent job with the entire community like it. So we have to go with the new coach. The coach they got, John Snowden, was pretty decent. I had to include this. Kenneth Canfield was the principal. His dad owned that motor company, and these beanies came out in 1952, the old Rocket 88. And young fellow that played for me at Madison Middle, who's now the assistant principal there, Robbie Riley, he came across it, and he's preserved it, and I'm happy for that. Now, this is when the Madison model cheerleading thing sort of, the tradition really got going. There's always 6 cheerleaders. 3 of them from Madison, 3 of them from Model. And I can't tell you exactly which ones are from Madison and Model, although I know that Mary Jo McCain went. She was McCain then. She went to them. Next. And then this is the next year. Now I got the names. Still can't see exactly who went to Madison and who went to Model. But once again, 3 from one, 3 from the other. And that's really Joe with her best friend with Lovell. That same year, I believe, right? This was taken, I don't know if some kind of function at the end of the year. These are all seniors. There's Mary Jo. There's Jimmy Whitaker. There's Frankie. Where's that? And when I saw this, I said, "Oh shoot, that's my algebra teacher." That's Louise Williams. You remember Miss Williams? Next. Jimmy Hinkle gave me that. I've got it, and I'm gonna give that to him. Not easy. I'll give it. But he did give me I'm so proud of this. I used to weigh 250 pounds. This was Jimmy's football jacket his senior year.
Wow.
And he was. Enormous one.
John, his father owned Hinkle's drugstore. There were 2 brothers. Jimmy would, Woodrow or J.K.
Woodrow.
That building's still there, but it's the Irish pub.
Yeah, and
That's the real Hinkle drugstore.
This was, this new coach. John Snowden was here for 3 years and had 3 decent years. Not as good as the man that came after him, but he got out of coaching and got back in and ended up winning a state championship at Versailles in 1962. A lot of these guys, I can point out to you, ended up playing for Coach Kidd. I won't get to do that. 54, 55. There's Coach Williams, I was telling you about. This man went to Central. He went into the Armed Forces during World War II. He played at Eastern. He got out of Eastern. He got a job in the county. Teaching and coaching with a small school. And he got this job in Madison, coach baseball and basketball. And this was the only year he had basketball coach all the way in the league. He stayed in baseball. And May 28th, not 29th, 19th. They go to the state tournament in baseball. The reason I found out about this is Jimmy Hinkle. And I got 4 baseballs that he saved. He said, "Tom, there's a baseball we played with when we played." Yeah, I love that. But you all, I'll be. That's Jimmy. This is Alan Hughes, son of Turkey Hughes, 2 great ball players, every good sophomore. Gene Ballinger, who was the main reason they won that game because he was a heck of a pitcher, and that's probably what I did. And that's Pearl Cow, we went to Pearl.
Is that a church in the background? What is that?
I have no idea. I don't even know where that was. I guess it was taken at the ball fair. Jimmy Hinkle did that picture. This is last year for John Stone. Once again, they had a decent team. They were like 5-3, 5-3-2, like that. But then the next year, things changed drastically. So after 1955, we lose our basketball coach, Guy Strong, and we lose our football coach, John Smoke. And he actually, this was the year Madison's going to integrate. Madison had put in an integration vote. I'm not saying that's why Coach Smoke left. He decided to leave in July. So we had to sort of scramble to be coach. And there was this assistant basketball coach, head baseball coach at Central, who just started. Well, I really for football, his name was Roy King. So Madison got lucky and got for the next 6 years, he set records in the state of Kentucky. This was his first game. You can tell we have our first generated football team. It's Sam Chambers, Joe Parks. And that's Jerry Paul. This is J.I. Isabel, and the first African American to ever compete in a football game for Madison. Any athletic event, that's Sam Chambers. This was taken at painful. This man, Roy Kidd takes his team. He's only, had about 3 weeks to get him ready. 4 weeks. He went undefeated. Didn't lose a game. So, he's got everybody. Okay, this was taken at painful before the game. You might know. That's Johnny Green. I'll talk more about him later. That's Fred Crump. That's Alan Hughes. Oh, that's Hugh Porter. And Hugh didn't play football. Like his dad was a judge. I love this picture right here. This is the backfield. They put Coach Kidd beside the fact he was a great coach on the map. The only one that went to Madison was Johnny Green, Charlie Harper Road model, Alan Hughes model, Jimmy Hinkle model. As I said, they went 9-11. This is unbelievable.
John, we've got that 10 minutes before the library.
I do this.